I know. Okay, it's just 2 words. Sounds simple.
Deceptively simple.
Exactly. But what if those 2 words, the ones we use all the time, are actually like a secret language?
Mm-hmm.
You know, about power, status, maybe even insecurity.
Mm-hmm. We hear them constantly.
But we rarely stop to think about the silent battles they might be waging in our conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Despite how basic it seems, it's hardly ever just about the information itself.
Right.
This phrase carries, well, significant social, psychological, and emotional weight. Its actual impact, and that's what we're really digging into today, hinges on almost entirely on the tone, the timing, the context.
It's like a chameleon, linguistically speaking.
It really is.
It feels almost, I don't know, deceptive, like a conversational Trojan horse.
Huh. That's a good way to put it.
And for us today, that deception is exactly what we want to unpack. You asked for a deep dive into I know, specifically as a conversational flashpoint, focusing on those power dynamics. You wanted to understand its impact, you know, with friends, family, coworkers, even strangers, and why it so often creates tension.
Yeah, that friction when sharing knowledge kind of bumps up against pride or status or someone assuming you don't know something.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to sort of pull back the curtain on this phrase, give some clarity.
And maybe equip you with some insights. And practical strategies, too.
That's the goal, to help you navigate these everyday moments more effectively, hopefully build some trust instead of unnecessary tension.
Okay, so most of us think I know is pretty straightforward, just acknowledging something.
Yeah, the simple version.
But what's really fascinating, and probably where the tension comes from, is how it's almost never just that neutral fact. It's packed with unspoken layers.
Precisely.
Yes.
I mean, on the surface, sure, it could be a literal acknowledgement, neutral. Yes, I know the flight leaves at 8.
Yeah.
Simple confirmation.
Okay.
But the second you shift your voice even slightly or tilt your head, it changes. It can become empathetic, reassuring. That's the softer, maybe slower way people use it, often with comforting body language. Like, I know, that sounds really tough. Validating feelings.
But then there's the other side, the cutting edge.
Definitely.
It can be dismissive or defensive. That's when it just cuts the speaker off, right? Signals boredom, irritation, like, I know, you told me already.
Yeah. That one lands like a lead balloon.
It really does. And then the positive end of the spectrum, it can show shared understanding. It deepens the connection. Like, oh my gosh, I know, right?
Totally in sync.
Same 2 words, totally different worlds.
And what's really interesting is how that simple phrase can subtly shift the power dynamics in a conversation.
How so?
Well, it often becomes receiver-centered. It pulls the focus away from what the speaker is saying.
And puts it onto the listener's knowledge state. Look what I know.
Exactly. Which can make the original speaker feel a bit unseen or dismissed, especially if they were sharing something important or something that took effort.
Yeah, I can see that. And it definitely gets used for authority signaling, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
In some contexts, saying, I know, maybe with a certain emphasis.
Oh, I know that.
Right. It asserts expertise or seniority. Sometimes people don't even mean to, but it comes across.
And defensively. It can block vulnerability.
For sure. It can shut down feedback or maybe an emotional exchange just to avoid feeling uncomfortable, especially if the info hints at something they feel, a bit insecure about.
So the ripple effects, socially and emotionally, are pretty huge then.
They really are.
Yeah.
Positively, yeah, it can build camaraderie, show empathy, signal alignment, a real shared moment.
But negatively.
It can leave the other person feeling unheard, maybe belittled, or just plain unnecessary in that exchange.
The ambiguity is just striking. Like you said, tone, body language, the history you have with the person. It all determines whether it lands as supportive or just dismissive.
Critical determinants.
Yeah.
And culturally, wow, there are some big differences too.
Like what?
Well, take Japanese aizuchi. You know those little interjections like hi or kasu desu ne?
Like verbal nods.
Exactly. They function like active listening cues. I hear you. I understand. They're meant to encourage the speaker, show engagement, even signal shared knowledge to keep the flow going.
Okay.
But in English, our I know often carries this risk of implying, you don't need to tell me this.
Which can create friction, not connection.
Precisely. It's a very different function.
Okay, so we've mapped out some of these hidden currents. The big question for you, the listener, is probably, how does this actually play out? Why is I know such a common conversational flashpoint?
Well, fundamentally, when someone offers information the other person already possesses, it sets up 2 possible interpretations. And both are about positioning.
Positioning.
Yeah. First, you have I know as self-positioning. The listener is basically saying, hey, I'm already competent here. I'm not beneath you in knowledge or status.
Yeah.
Reasserting themselves.
Okay, that makes sense. And the second?
The second is seeing the info giver as self-positioning. Maybe they're positioning themselves as their helpful provider of necessary knowledge.
Or maybe trying to bond. Or maybe even establish a little authority.
Could be any of those. The tension flares up when either person feels like their status or their intelligence or maybe their role in the relationship is being challenged by the other.
So let's bring this down to earth. With friends, how does this work?
It can swing wildly, right? They could have friendly banter. Someone shares a random fact. Did you know kangaroos can't walk backwards? And the reply is a teasing, I know, nerd. That's playful.
Right, no harm done.
But then you try to genuinely help. Like, hey, just remember you need to push the green button first. And you get back a tight-toned, defensive, I know.
Oof. Yeah, the subtext is clearly, I'm not an idiot.
Exactly. Why are you telling me something so obvious? It instantly becomes a flashpoint because it questions competence.
And that dynamic with friends is tricky because the power balance is usually pretty fluid, right?
It is,
Yeah.
which is great. But that openness also means insecurity, or maybe a bit of one-upmanship can slip in more easily, makes those moments sting a bit more sometimes.
Okay, so if that's the dance with friends, what about family? Those dynamics feel even more loaded, don't they?
Oh, definitely. The stakes often feel higher. Think about, say, a parent talking to their adult child.
Yeah.
Don't forget to lock the door when you leave.
Yeah.
And the reply,
I know. Subtext, stop treating me like I'm 12.
precisely. Or siblings. That rivalry can run deep. Well, that's the actor from that Marvel movie. Reply, I know, you don't have to explain everything to me.
Subtext, stop acting like you're the smart one who knows everything.
Exactly. With family, there's often this long history of assumed roles. You know, who's the responsible one? Who's the forgetful one?
Right.
That history makes the tone incredibly sensitive. It's not just the words, it's the weight of years, the implied hierarchy, the assumption about competence that gets triggered.
Okay, let's shift to the workplace. Coworkers. That feels like another major battleground for, I know.
Huge. Because status and competence are often much more on the surface there.
Right. So someone says, hey, just so you know, the report needs to be in 12-point font.
And if you reply with just a flat, I know,
It could easily sound like, duh, I'm competent, that's obvious. Patronizing almost.
or at least defensive. And then there's the hierarchy issue. A manager gives an FYI.
And the employee says, I know, maybe trying to show they're on top of things, ahead of the curve.
Which could read as confident, or it could read as defensive, pushing back subtly. Depends heavily on the existing relationship and, again, the tone.
Work settings just amplify those status implications, don't they?
They really do. So
Yeah.
I know can easily sound like you're challenging authority, even if you don't mean to, unless it's delivered really carefully, with warmth or context.
Okay, last scenario. Acquaintances or strangers, no relationship safety net there.
Right, which makes tone even more critical. Imagine you're at a trivia night, maybe.
Okay.
The stranger leans over. FYI, the answer to number 5 is Paris's. You already knew. You just say, I know. Abruptly.
How does that land?
Probably like, okay, fine, why are you telling me something so obvious? Or maybe even, are you implying I wouldn't know that?
Yeah, defensive again. Or what about when someone's in their expert territory?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're a keen bird watcher, and a stranger starts explaining the difference between a robin and a sparrow.
And you say, I know.
It can be a way to reclaim your authority on the topic, but
Yeah.
you risk embarrassing the other person if you're not graceful about it. They might have just been trying to connect.
So with strangers, tone control is absolutely paramount.
It really is. And maybe it's worth touching on why it feels belittling.
Yeah.
From both sides.
Good point. So if someone tells you, I know.
It can feel like they're rejecting the value of what you offered. Like you brought this little gift of information or connection.
And they just refused it.
Yeah.
Don't need that.
Yeah. It's a subtle rejection of your effort, your intention to connect or inform.
And for the person saying, I know, why does the initial sharing sometimes feel bad?
Because the assumption behind the explanation, even if it wasn't intended, can feel like the speaker thinks you're less intelligent or less competent or unprepared.
Like they have a low estimation of you.
Exactly. So if it's not handled with care, it really can feel like a lose-lose situation. It shuts down connection.
Which raises a really interesting question. Has it always been like this whole I know dynamic? Or is this something new tied to our, information-saturated age?
That's a great question. The short answer is yes, the dynamic has always existed. People have always felt a bit patronized when told something they already knew.
Even way back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Think pre-modern context. It was often tied to specialized skills or knowledge. A master blacksmith probably didn't appreciate a farmer telling him how to temper iron.
Right. I know how to do my job.
Exactly. Or later, in literate societies, you might see tension between, say, someone who's read about it versus someone who's lived it.
Theory versus practice. I know the book versus I know the reality.
Precisely. But you're right to ask about the modern age. Has the internet, with just this flood of information, changed how I know lands?
Yeah,
I think it absolutely has. The difference today is that information saturation. Meaning we all have access to just massive amounts of facts, news, niche knowledge right at our fingertips.
True.
This makes it way easier to fall into the trap of assuming, oh, everyone must know that.
Because I saw it online 5 minutes ago.
Kind of. And it also makes it harder to actually gauge what someone else's baseline knowledge is.
Right.
There isn't always a shared baseline anymore.
They said the sheer volume makes knowing everything impossible.
But somehow the expectation that we should know feels higher. It's a weird paradox.
Yeah, that resonates. Which leads to another key question for you listening. Is it actually bad to share knowledge? Because it can really feel that way after one of those awkward I know moments.
No, definitely not inherently bad. It really comes down to intent and, crucially, delivery. Sharing relevant info is good, obviously, when there's a genuine chance the other person doesn't know, or especially when the stakes are high.
Like preventing a mistake or a misunderstanding, safety briefings, that kind of thing.
Exactly. That's necessary sharing.
But where does it become potentially problematic?
Well, if the motivation seems to be about establishing dominance, showing off, or just info dumping without checking if the other person actually wants or needs to hear it.
Right. Though it can be mixed too, can't it? Sharing something someone already knows isn't automatically bad?
Not at all. It can confirm alignment. We're on the same page. It can reinforce a shared view of the world.
Or even just provide a jumping off point for more conversation, if you frame it right.
Totally. And reinforcing clarity is definitely valuable, especially when those stakes are high health, safety, deadlines. Times when a misunderstanding could cause real problems.
But the key is how you phrase it. You need to avoid implying incompetence.
Absolutely. Things like, I'm not sure if you've heard the latest on this, or I think we're probably aligned here, but just to double check, that softens it.
Okay, so we've dissected the problem, the nuances, the contexts. Now, the really practical part for you. How do we actually use this understanding? How do we disarm this conversational flashpoint when it happens?
Right, the strategies. Let's start with you as the listener. You're told something you already know. How do you avoid that flat, dismissive, I know?
Yeah, what are the alternatives?
You can soften it or reframe it. Instead of just, I know, maybe try, yeah, I heard that recently. Wow, it's wild, isn't it?
Okay.
Or, yeah, I still can't quite get my head around it. Or even a simple acknowledgement plus appreciation. Yeah, I know, thanks for looking out, though. Or, thanks for the reminder.
That feels much warmer. Why does adding that bit of curiosity or connection work so well?
Well, curiosity is powerful here. It keeps the conversational door open. It signals you're willing to hear their perspective, not just shut down the exchange.
Instead of making it about who knew first.
Exactly. It shifts focus from who knew it first to what else can we explore about this. And importantly, it builds goodwill. It shows you value the person's effort in sharing, even if the info wasn't new to you.
So give us some practical curiosity pivots. If I know the fact, what can I actually say instead of, I know?
Okay, so instead of I know, try, yeah, I've heard that. How did you come across it? Or totally, what made you think of that just now?
Ooh, I like that one, exploring their connection.
Or maybe, I've heard one version of that story, but do you know if there's more to it? Or even just, yeah, and I've always wondered. And then you pose a related question.
The key thing here seems to be that you're not faking ignorance.
Not at all. You're genuinely exploring the context or the nuance, or simply valuing the other person's attempt to connect by engaging with it.
Okay, but what if curiosity isn't really the goal? You just want to acknowledge it politely and move on.
Simple, graceful closing phrases work. Thanks for letting me know. Or, gotcha, appreciate you bringing it up. Polite, acknowledges, doesn't prolong it.
And what if it felt genuinely patronizing? Do you just let it slide?
It depends on the relationship and the stakes. But if you need to address it, using impact language is often effective.
Impact language?
Yeah, describe the impact their words had on you, rather than accusing them of an intent. So maybe I actually already knew that, but the way you phrased it just now made me feel like you thought I didn't, and honestly, it felt a little diminishing. Was that your intention?
Hmm. That invites clarification, not confrontation.
Exactly. It opens a door to understanding without necessarily escalating things.
Okay, let's flip it. What if you're the speaker and someone hits you with that, I know, that feeling of stepping into conversational quicksand?
Yeah, it can stop you in your tracks, but you still have options to keep the door open.
Like what?
Respond with curiosity yourself. Or expansion? Maybe. Cool, so what's your take on it then? Or, yeah, true, I was just thinking how it connects to some other related thing.
Oh, interesting. Or,
Even, right, I figured you might already know. I was actually more curious if you'd heard the latest update on it.
so you sidestep the knowledge competition. You shift the frame towards their view or something broader.
Precisely. You're redirecting away from who knows to what else.
What about more casual situations, where maybe it doesn't matter that much, you just want to move on smoothly?
A light acknowledgement works fine.
Okay. Maybe with a little nod, then just change the topic. Or, fair enough, it just popped into my head. Diffuses any tension without making a big deal of it.
But what if their "I know" felt like it shut you down and you actually had a reason for sharing that info?
You can do a sort of soft reset by stating your intent. Try something like, yeah, I figured you might, but I wanted to mention it just in case. Or, okay, I only brought it up because, and then briefly explain your connection or reason.
So you're reframing why you spoke, from just informing to relating or clarifying.
Exactly. It gives context to your contribution beyond just the fact itself.
And if it really matters, if their "I know" came off as genuinely dismissive or sharp, again, depending on the relationship, you might address the tone directly, but gently. Maybe Gotcha wasn't trying to tell you something you didn't know, just sharing what came to mind. Or even, fair enough, but the way you said that felt a little sharp. Is everything okay?
That takes courage, but it addresses the dynamic so it doesn't just fester silently.
You can, yeah. And one last tip here. If this is a pattern with someone specific,
Someone who always says, I know.
yeah, you can try to preempt it. Start your comment with a softener. You might already know this, but, or this is probably obvious to you, however.
Even just casually.
Especially casually, it lowers the chance they'll feel underestimated and sets a more collaborative tone from the start.
Okay, this is all super practical, but let's zoom out a bit. What's going on psychologically here? What's driving this dynamic?
Well, on a deeper human level, I think insecurity about knowledge plays a huge role for both people involved.
How so? For the listener first. The one saying, I know.
For the listener, not knowing something can feel like vulnerability, especially if intelligence or competence is tied up with their sense of self-worth.
Right.
So saying, I know, is a quick way to reestablish competence. To avoid being seen as naive or uninformed, it's often a face-saving move, really.
But the downside is it can make the exchange feel competitive.
Definitely.
And for the speaker, the one sharing the info that gets the I know response, where does their insecurity come in?
Well, sometimes offering facts unnecessarily can stem from a genuine desire to help or connect. We should acknowledge that.
Sure.
But sometimes, maybe consciously, maybe not, it is a way to establish a bit of authority or expertise, or even just to fill silence, to feel relevant in the conversation.
And the downside there is if the delivery feels patronizing.
The listener reacts defensively.
Right.
Not necessarily because of the fact itself, but because of that implied hierarchy, that sense of being talked down to.
It really is kind of a tragic irony, isn't it? Both sides might just want to feel respected and competent.
It truly is. You often see this competitive cycle kick in. The listener says, I know, to reassert status.
The speaker senses that defensiveness maybe doubles down or gets defensive themselves.
And suddenly the conversation turns into this subtle game of one-upmanship. Who knows more?
Instead of
a cooperative cycle.
Yeah.
Which can happen if the listener responds with curiosity instead. Oh, really? Where did you hear that? Then the speaker feels heard, not shut down.
And the exchange can actually grow from there.
Exactly. Humility and curiosity from either side act like a pressure valve.
How?
They make it psychologically safer to not know something without losing face.
How?
And they transform knowledge from a potential status weapon
into a bridge for connection.
Yeah. Like we said, both sides often have the same unspoken goal to be respected as knowledgeable. But the defensive ways we sometimes try to claim that respect can actually undermine it.
So the key is shifting towards curiosity, maybe some humility, and framing knowledge sharing as mutual, not hierarchical.
That really seems to be the crux of it.
So the big takeaway here isn't necessarily never say I know again.
Right. Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's more about being mindful of what that phrase does in the interaction, being aware of its potential impact.
And choosing your response with intention.
Right. Because I know can shut down an exchange. It can signal status or defensiveness, or, used differently, it can reinforce connection. It all depends on that tone, context, and maybe what comes next.
So for you listening, if you're the listener, maybe notice if that I know is just a reflex, a way to protect your own status.
And ask yourself,
Mm-hmm.
could curiosity or a softer acknowledgement keep the door open instead? Build a little connection.
And if you're the speaker and you get that I know speed bump,
Recognize it for what it might be, maybe defensiveness, maybe just acknowledgement, and be ready to pivot. Expand the topic, clarify your intent, or sometimes just gracefully let it go.
it's less about censoring specific words.
And more about consciously managing those subtle power dynamics that pop up in everyday talk. So hopefully both people walk away feeling respected, not diminished.
Which brings us to maybe the core issue, trust.
Yes. At its heart, this whole I know dynamic often boils down to a choice. Are we prioritizing ego satisfaction in that moment, or are we prioritizing trust cultivation?
Explain that difference. Ego satisfaction is...
It's about protecting our image, proving we're smart, making sure others see us as competent, maybe winning the point.
And trust cultivation.
That's about creating a safe space, a space where it's okay to not know something, where it's safe to share what you do know without judgment, where you can explore ideas together.
That shift in focus feels really important. It moves beyond just the words.
To a relational outcome. It puts on a long-term lens. Ego satisfaction might feel good for a second.
Like, I showed them I knew that.
Right. But trust building compounds over time. It makes future conversations smoother, more open, more honest.
Because every time we respond in these moments, we're making a tiny choice.
We are. We're either reinforcing a kind of hierarchy of knowing,
Mm-hmm.
or we're fostering a culture of curiosity.
The first feeds the ego.
The second feeds trust.
Okay, but how do you actually know which one you're doing? It's easy to think you're being helpful or open when maybe you're not coming across that way. How can you, the listener, check yourself?
That's a fair point. Objective self-assessment is tricky. One little trick you can try is the neutral observer perspective.
How does that work?
Mentally replay a recent conversation where maybe, I know, caused some friction. But this time, imagine you're a totally unbiased third party just listening in.
Okay.
Would that observer perceive the exchange as supportive, collaborative? Or would they sense a subtle contest, a bit of tension? It helps strip away your own emotional filter and defensiveness.
That's clever. What else? Can you self-audit your patterns?
Definitely. After a few conversations, maybe reflect. Did people around me seem comfortable admitting they didn't know something? Or did they seem hesitant?
Good question.
Did they volunteer ideas or perspectives freely? Or did they wait to be asked? When I corrected someone or offered information, how did I frame it? Was it collaborative, like building on that, or more competitive, like actually?
And crucially, when someone told me something I already knew...
Did I keep the door open with curiosity? Or did I shut it down with a flat, I know? Be honest with yourself.
You can also look for those broader social cues, right? Signs of trust versus tension in your interactions generally.
Absolutely. You might be fostering trust if you notice people frequently expanding on topics you bring up, if they bring questions to you without seeming embarrassed about not knowing, if there's easy laughter, people building off each other's comments.
And signs of tension.
Maybe people seem to preemptively defend their points around you, or conversations hit dead ends more often. Maybe people tend to stick to safe, superficial topics. Those could be subtle signals.
And watching your own specific behaviors is key too.
For sure. How often do you find yourself correcting others? Do you consciously use softening language sometimes? Like, you might already know this. Do you ever just openly admit you don't know something?
Because if you never model that.
Others might feel pressure to always seem knowledgeable too. Again, when you do know, do you follow up with curiosity? Or does I know tend to be your default conversation-ending response? Just noticing your patterns is the first step.
It seems like there are deeper layers, too, beyond just the immediate interaction.
Oh, absolutely. To add more nuance, remember that trust versus tension isn't static. It changes based on context. You might be super open and curious with friends,
but slip into status defending mode at work, where competence feels more performative.
Exactly. And relationships often have unspoken knowledge hierarchies.
Meaning?
like a subtle pecking order for certain topics.
Yeah.
Maybe you're considered the expert on finance in your family. If someone tries to tell you something basic about budget,
Your I know might come out sharper because you feel they're encroaching on your territory, even unconsciously.
right, it's about protecting that perceived role.
And that I know can just be a reflex, can't it? Like an ego protection shield that goes up automatically.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not arrogance, it's just a micro shield popping up before you've even consciously processed why you feel the need for it.
And on the flip side, as the speaker, sometimes pushing information might be about avoiding feeling irrelevant or just filling an awkward silence.
All these subconscious motivations are at play. Plus, those hidden cultural scripts we touched on.
Like how overlapping speech can be seen as engaged listening in one culture.
And rude interrupting in another. Or how in certain subcultures, maybe academic or tech circles, there's a kind of prestige attached to being the first to know something.
That adds another layer of competition.
It does, and a crucial point, intent doesn't equal impact.
Meaning even if your intentions are pure?
Your well-meaning fact might still land like a power play if the other person is feeling defensive or insecure. And vice versa, you might say, I know, just a signal, message received.
But the speaker hears dismissal. You can't fully control how others interpret you.
Exactly. But what you can control, over time, are your patterns. You build a reputation for being someone who fosters trust or someone who creates tension.
Is there one thing that really helps keep the balance towards trust?
I think one of the fastest ways is simply modeling humility. Occasionally, genuinely admitting you don't know something.
Why is that so powerful?
Because it signals that ignorance isn't shameful in your presence. It makes it safe for others to share what they know or ask questions without fearing judgment. It immediately reduces that subconscious competition over who's smarter here.
It changes the whole dynamic.
It really can. You know, truly skilled communicators, they don't operate with hard and fast rules like never say I know. No. Instead, they microcalibrate. They're constantly adjusting mid-conversation based on the other person's tone, their body language, their word choices.
They're reading the room, the moment.
Exactly. And deciding what that specific moment needs. Does it need warmth, brevity, more depth, a complete pivot? It's a responsive, dynamic skill, not a rigid script.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. That simple I know moment.
It's rarely just about the fact itself, is it?
No. It seems like it's fundamentally about our sense of status, our need for psychological safety, and our desire for connection.
And in that split second after information is shared, both people are making an unconscious choice, really.
Collaboration or competition?
Pretty much. Am I building a bridge here, or am I building a wall?
And by recognizing that undercurrent, that hidden dynamic,
And consciously choosing to respond with maybe curiosity or humility or just clarity about your intent.
you can actually shift the interaction, move it away from ego protection.
And towards trust building.
And those little choices repeated over time.
They stack up. They build your reputation. Are you someone people feel safe exploring ideas with, sharing knowledge with, even admitting uncertainty around?
Or are you someone they feel they have to tread carefully around, always ready to defend their competence?
It makes a huge difference in the quality of your relationships and conversations.
So maybe a final thought for you to consider. In this age where we're drowning in information, where facts are everywhere.
What's truly scarce isn't the facts themselves.
No. What's scarce, maybe, are those safe spaces. Places where people can actually share knowledge, ask questions, explore ideas, without the fear of being diminished or judged.
That feels right. So the question to leave you with is, what kind of space are you building in your interactions? And why is that the kind of space worth cultivating?